10. The Apocalypse of Peter. Around the late 2nd century, there were many holy books appearing across the ancient world that were later disowned by the Catholic Church. One of these books was the Apocalypse of Peter, which contained one of the most terrifying visions of hell ever put to paper. According to the narrator, people are hung by the tongue over bubbling pools of gore. Blasphemers are stabbed in the eye with red-hot irons. Clouds of worms trail over the landscape, devouring everything in their path. But the worst is reserved for minorities. Demons throw lesbians and transgender women off a cliff, and ladies have their eyes burned out by the souls of their aborted children. 9. The Revelation of Sister Josefa Menendez. Sister Menendez was a Spanish nun in the early 20th century, who lived only 4 years in a convent before dying at the age of 33. While there, she felt compelled by God to write down a description of hell, something she was reportedly very uncomfortable doing. Her vision is one of the saddest, scariest visions ever. At first appearing pretty pedestrian, her hell is filled with long, dark corridors, eternally burning fires, and the standard ironic punishments. However, the mental tortures inflicted on its inmates are utterly heartbreaking. According to Sister Menendez, any soul condemned to hell loses its power to feel love, happiness, or anything other than cruelty and misery. In one haunting passage, she writes about a soul that cries out about how it would give anything to be able to love again, to witness even one small act of kindness in the whole of hell. Not only do the damned have to put up with eternal physical misery, they're cursed with eternal mental misery too. 8. Saint Faustina's Visions. Mary Faustina was an early 20th century Polish nun, now recognized as a saint. She is best known for a series of visions which culminated in her journeying into hell itself. What she described will make your skin crawl. According to her account, hell is a gigantic, smoky chamber filled with a suffocating, indescribable stench in eternal darkness. Demons tiptoe from pit to pit, unleashing special tortures tailor-made for each soul, while God himself burns sinners with his agonizing fire. The majority of souls in this hell are specifically named unbelievers, while those who believed but sinned wind up in purgatory instead. 7. Saint Don Bosco's Dream. Saint Don Bosco was a 19th century priest who advocated love over punishment and spent his life helping street kids. He also had some pretty extreme views on hell. His infamous dream of April 10, 1968, revealed a terrifying image of cruelty. He found himself on a road sloping gently downhill toward an everlasting pit. Suddenly, people he knew started sprinting past, in and over the edge. Looking into the pit, he saw children he taught writhing like mad dogs, tearing flesh off their own faces and throwing it high into the air. As he descended deeper and deeper into hell, he encountered other former students lying motionless, worms chewing on their eyeballs, hearts, hands, and legs. When asked, his guardian angels said they will suffer this for all eternity, with absolutely no reprieve whatsoever. The dream ends when Bosco placed his hand to one of the walls of hell. He's told that this is an outer wall, and there are 1,000 more walls, each 1,000 miles thick and 1,000 miles apart, before you reach the true fires of hell. Even way out here, Bosco's hand burned so badly he woke up, meaning this nightmare vision was meant to be the nice bits of hell. 6. The Vision of Drythelm. In the late 7th century, an Englishman named Drythelm had one of the scariest near-death experiences ever recorded. It was put to paper by celebrated early English historian St. Bede the Venerable. The vision starts with Drythelm walking between two valleys. In one, an all-consuming fire rages, while in the other, violent hail and snow beat down endlessly. In each valley, thousands of sinners suffer the heat or cold until it gets so bad that they leap into the other, where they continue to suffer in a slightly different way. Initially, Drythelm mistakes this for hell, but is told that this is purgatory. Hell itself is much worse. After much walking, Drythelm finds himself at the rim of a great pit. Under choking darkness, globes of black flame hang in the air, rising out of the burning pit, then falling back in. Each globe contains a single human soul, trapped forever in burning agony, without even the other damned for company. At this point, Drythelm ends his vision by being attacked by demons and running away toward heaven. 5. The Vision of Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. Anne Catherine Emmerich was born in the late 18th century and was a full-time mystic. She was known to exhibit signs of stigmata and saw horrifying visions, the most horrifying of which was her account of hell. In this version, hell is a dirty, run-down city with collapsing buildings and swamps where the damned engage in all sorts of depraved activities. Meanwhile, vipers and reptiles consume lost souls who wander into their clutches. Demons wander the ruins, and a great smoky abyss lies at the very center, where Lucifer is chained in howling agony. Interestingly, there are also various prophecies scrawled on the walls. One tells of the release of Satan onto Earth sometime just before the year 2000. 4. Swedenborg's Hells. In the mid-18th century, scientist and philosopher Emanuel Swedenborg published a book which claimed there is more than one heaven and more than one hell. While his 3 versions of heaven remained remarkably similar, his multiple hells differed wildly. In some versions of hell, the damned would be trapped in big, decaying cities full of violence. Demons and lost souls shared houses and would spend all day beating each other, fighting, getting drunk, and robbing one another in the streets. In more extreme versions of these hells, every single building would be a brothel where patrons were forced to have sexual intercourse in excrement while the city burned around them. Other types of hell included dark forests crawling with beasts, dank caves, and endless deserts. But the most revolutionary aspect of Swedenborg's visions was his insistence that we all carry our own personal hell around with us. When we die, all that happens is we start literally inhabiting it. 3. The Apocalypse of Paul, basically a 3rd century reboot of the Apocalypse of Peter. In this version, hell is divided into 2 rivers, one of fire and one of ice, and the damned are split between the 2. Those in the river of fire have their entrails pierced by iron hooks, stones smashed in their faces, and their lips cut off with red-hot razors. Some are eaten from the inside out by worms. Meanwhile, those in the ice river have their hands and feet cut off and are feasted on by vermin. Gay people are dropped in pits full of pitch, while women who lost their virginity before marriage are chained up in red-hot irons and carted off by abusive angels. People are tortured for swearing, for having money, for not fasting properly, and even for giving to charity. In short, the entire human race since the dawn of time is probably festering in this hell, suggesting that the author thought the whole concept of Christian forgiveness was highly overrated. 2. The Vision of Tundale. Tundle was an Irishman who lived in the Middle Ages. He is known for his insane 2-day voyage into hell. In this hell, people are cooked down to soup in gigantic frying pans. Demons with red-hot pitchforks push people off mountains, and surgery-minded devils chop people up into little bits, magically put them back together, and chop them up again. Tundle was tortured by demons who clawed off their own faces and made him lead a wild cow across a narrow bridge studded with nails, while horse-shaped monsters tried to devour him. Perhaps the most shocking aspect of his hell is Acheron, a sort of hell within a hell. Acheron is a gigantic beast capable of swallowing 9,000 men at a time. Once inside, people who've been eaten are eaten again, this time by thousands of frightened dogs, snakes, rats, all while being burned and suffocating with sulfur. 1. The Vision of Wetti. The Vision of Wetti was recorded in the 9th century and follows a German monk on his journey into hell. It has the usual references to darkness and flames and worms and eternal suffering, but the one thing that stands out most about this hell is how absolutely obsessed it is with sexuality. During the account, Wetti's guardian angel mentions or discusses sodomy 5 times, even comparing it to the plague. Some of the punishments he witnesses include people's genitals being burned with fire, naked women being flogged, and adulterers tied naked together. But the worst is reserved for Charlemagne, a former emperor. In the vision, he is tied to a stake naked, completely unharmed except for an animal eternally ripping at his genitals. The sight of genital destruction is the pinnacle of Wetti's vision and about the most horrifying thing imaginable.